Hey y'all, welcome back to Let's Talk About It with Courtney Carroll. I am your host, Courtney. I am the therapist, coach, connection coach, and I'm so excited to be with you this beautiful Friday morning. If this is your first time joining me, thank you for the support and coming along this way with me. I probably say this every single podcast, but I feel like it's so essential to someone that jumps in that hasn't been in. I am a therapist, coach, just like I introduced myself, that does not prepare much for when I record. This podcast is for you. If this is come your way or somehow hit your algorithm and it's aligning to you, there's no teleprompter. I usually spend a couple minutes trying to think about how the week turned out. I used to record like Tuesdays or Wednesdays to try to get out of the way before Friday. And I really have learned that it's important to see how the week takes me to kind of find the topic that I feel like is not necessarily trending, but kind of trending within my clients or my environment and see what pops. And this week it has been so clear, sorry, stumbling on my words, that I should talk about, or let's talk about, not playing small, or better yet, that you're not too much. I don't know if you grew up in a home, I'm sure you grew up in some type of home, but where you were kind of told to either be quiet or you're too much, you're too loud. And like, I know that probably shaped a lot of who you are, not only as a therapist, but I personally have experienced that. I've always been a pretty blunt, direct person. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. I tend to think we don't really hold anything back. Some people associate Pacific Northwest people, especially Washington people, with being passive aggressive. I actually think we're not. I think we're pretty direct and we don't really waste time. I even would start sessions with new couples or new individuals to kind of remind them, like, hey, just remember, when I lived in North Carolina, I said it a lot more, that I'm pretty direct. So if I ever hit something that feels a little too confrontational, just let me know. And 9 times out of 10, people were like, I love that. That's great. But I remember as a girl, little girl, teenager, and especially in my 20s, like, you're a little much. And first of all, what does that mean? It's not something nice to say, right? Who says that? You're a little much, and then you're going to walk away feeling great about that. And I remember when I was younger, it would be because I challenged ideas and questions, especially in my primary home. And if you haven't seen an episode with me or had a session with me, when I go back and I talk about my childhood or my parents or your parents or clients' parents or whatever else, I want you to know I have so much love for them. I have so much love for my parents. I truly think my parents did the best they could with what they had, to their knowledge and their understanding. And I just remember so many times, like, I was told I didn't know what I was talking about, all because I had questions. Or I would point out things like why things were unfair. I'm one of 6. A lot of things are unfair when you're one of 6. But I just remember all the time being told, you should just be quiet. And in high school, I was really involved in leadership. I was the one, like, hosting and, like, decorating the dances and being involved in this school. And I remember there was a governor that was visiting, a Washington governor, like, at some point. And I went to Rogers High School, go Rams, right? And so funny to think about. I'm in my I'll be 37 this year, and I think of, like, I just remember how big pride was for my school. And apparently this person had gone to UW, which I love UW. I'm a Husky fan, by the way. Again, go Huskies. But she wanted to have, like, purple and gold or yellow posters, and our rival high school was Puyallup High School. And I was like, absolutely not. No, absolutely. We are not hanging up purple and yellow in our school because that's the wrong school. And I remember my teacher, I can't remember her name on top of my head, but like, getting annoyed with me. And I remember thinking, I think it was football season. I'm pretty sure it was around homecoming. And I'm like, we can't have Puyallup colors hanging out in the school. And, like, the football team would be so mad at me, and they would have. And I remember after I explained it, she's like, okay, that makes sense. I moved on to my careers, and I was married. In my first marriage, I've only been married once. I remember my ex-husband always telling me, like, I was a little much, or I should be a little less, or I should be more quiet. He loved at the early ages of our life being like, you should have more tact. And kind of learned to, I don't think he did this intentionally, but like to be in the shadows. And I remember always like, well, I do have an opinion, or I do know what I'm talking about my whole life. So if you're resonating with this, if you truly feel like you knew what you were talking about, or what you said, or how you did it, like, or why you did things, a lot of people will tell you don't because they don't. No parent wants to feel dumb. No parent wants to be addressed. Like, if I called out, I'm like, you're spending a lot of time with these two siblings, and I don't get this. Instead of like working with me, like my daughter wants time with me, my parents would call me spoiled. Well, you're spoiled. I was spoiled because I wanted time with my parents. How crazy is that? And, or I'm trying to think of good examples. And again, one of six, I'm not mad at my parents at all. They're watching. I love you. I'm sorry. But that is how I felt about it. And I just always remembered being told so many times I didn't know what I was talking about. So much to where I have 3 degrees. I have an associate's degree, I have a bachelor's degree, and I have a master's. I have 3 degrees, y'all. I graduated with honors. I did extremely well in a group practice, and then I was able to open up a private practice. I am self-employed, and I think I know what the fuck I'm talking about, basically. I am confident that I'm a good therapist. I am confident in anything I talk about. And if I don't, by the way, anyone that knows me, I will be the first one that says, I got it wrong. I'm sorry. Can you explain that better? And that did not come overnight, okay? That did a lot because I was pushed and challenged. I was too much. I wanted to really make sure I'm not. I know, kind of interesting to do. I've done a lot of therapy. Clearly, I'm a therapist. And if you ever gone to grad school for therapy, you're actively in therapy. I went to school Tuesdays and Thursdays. I went to City University of Seattle. Whoa, that should not be that hard. And I loved my program. I did a 3-year master's program in 2 years with an amazing cohort. I think there was about 11 of us by the time we graduated. But every single Tuesday and Thursday, we were essentially in therapy. Group therapy, individual therapy. On top of that, I went and did papers, research, homework assignments, volunteer work, internships, all about to learn who I was, why I believed what I did believe in, and basically to have the research and the emotional intelligence to understand it. And I was still told by my ex, by friends and family, like, you don't know what you're talking about. I do know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about myself. Definitely know what I'm talking about when I talk about the theories I work with. A couple are emotion-focused therapy, sex therapy, the Gottman method, anything attachment style, and I'm very educated in it. But so many people immediately want to say, you don't know what you're talking about, you're too much, because they don't either want to participate in the conversation, or, my favorite, they don't want to look in. They don't want to go inward and ask themselves why. They don't want to ask themselves, why is Courtney too much? Why does she have that? Why does that make me uncomfortable? Instead of looking internal, they try to make me feel bad about it. This happens so much in relationships, especially in, I do a lot of couples work. I'm pretty damn good at it, if you want to know my opinion about it. And that's not, that's just confidence. But basically, I don't see this awesome. And when I use the word narcissism, I tell you right now, you'll rarely ever hear me say it. And 1, because I think it's not as common as people think it is. And 2, I think people confuse being a narcissist with narcissistic tendencies a lot. And we have a lot of tendencies in different aspects in our life based off your trauma experience and what you're going through. Do you hear what I'm saying? Don't I know what I'm talking about? Exactly. So when male or female, I see it more common with men, only because I have a private practice that's based in Southern Pines, North Carolina. I work with a lot of military. I was married to someone in the military for 11 years, 13-ish plus together. So I know the military rules pretty well. But whenever I hear a partner, and it does not have to be male dominant, right, where they constantly tell their partner they don't know what they're talking about or to make them feel they're stupid, that's narcissistic. And I attack it pretty quick. If you're in a position where you're constantly making people feel like crap, if you're in a position where you can't understand a message or like you're in a group environment and you're not wanting to listen to anyone else's opinions, but feel like because you're the expert and you know what you're talking about, look inward. My whole life, I'm not kidding, on and off throughout my life, I was told I was too much, or I didn't know what I was talking about. And and hence the podcast title, guys, let's talk about it. Because I do want to talk about everything. That's why there's no topic off for my podcast, because this is exactly how I show up in a therapy session. So many people are like, my friends are so fun. I love my friends, but they're silly. I've been asked before, can I have Courtney therapists? Or can I have my best friend Courtney? Can I have sex therapist Courtney? Can I have like whatever version of me that they think they are? And it's all compounded into my body. Like, I am always the same person. I don't think any of my clients would disagree with that. And basically, I show up so similarly. The only thing that's different in my personal life is that when I'm with clients, their sessions are about them, not me. I share my stories. I try to connect, and if there's something I can share from my personal life to help, I do, 100%. A lot of that's called self-disclosure. And some therapists don't do it at all. I think that's crazy, but that's me. I am an attachment emotional being, and so are my clients. So again, we're going back to the topic, are you too much? No. If you're too much, or you're constantly told you're too much, you're with the wrong people. You are in the wrong circle. You are definitely in the wrong relationship. And especially if they're attacking this and doing this in public or in front of other people, your family, your friends, if they are trying to call you out or make you look dumb, that has nothing to do with you. They're either insecure, or they need to make someone feel low so they can feel high. Narcissists, right? Like that's a narcissistic tendency. Man, that's just not landing well with me, because I don't even love to say it. Who does? And if you do, you should look at that too. But let's say you do know what you're talking about. Chances are you do. Let's say you do know how you feel. It's your body, it's your mind. Like, of course you do. And let's say you might be an expert of whatever you do. And I've always really landed in, I stay in my lane. My mentors would tell you this. My clients, if there's I don't pretend to specialize or do anything I don't think I can do. I like taxes. I would never handle my own money. I have an accountant. She's the best thing ever. Her name's Ashley, and she does my taxes, and I could never do that. I don't try to own I'm an expert in that department. I pay someone that is. And if someone has a question or whatever, I would defer her to her, or to find someone that they can connect with in their industry. I have an amazing girl that works for me. Her name's Kendra. She does all my websites. If you've been to CourtneyCarroll.com, waymarkcounseling.com. That's Kendra. She's beautiful. I put in my twist and I tell her who I am, what I am, and she makes that magic happen. I do not create websites. I create content, which I'm learning, and I'm a therapist and coach, and officially a podcaster as of a few months ago. And if you found this on YouTube, because currently where all I'm at, I'm working with Spotify and doing different things right now to build where you can find my podcast. But I'm nowhere out there going to try to pretend I'm something I'm not. And that kind of leans into authenticity and being honest. And if you are feeling like, why don't people get me? Or why do people always say that to me? And I know it sounds bad. Like, I know no one's going to want me to say challenge them, but I mean it, especially if it's your partner. I remember there's a story with my ex-husband. I was postpartum. I had my daughter for a few months. I actually just told the story today to a client. And I was just hired at Awakenings in Raleigh, by the way. Best practice if you're trying to do associate work, to try to learn new techniques like sex therapy and how it's attached to motion focus therapy. I love that practice. I learned so much from it, and from my mentors there, and my such great information. But I remember we were outside at some barbecue at my friend's house, and I can't really remember, there was a term that was being passed around, and it was like gosh, it's like dry, like I'm sluggish on it. A cockhold, something like that, like where it's well known in the porn industry and in this, well, I guess in any type of sex realm, it's when a person, I don't even know what it's called today, I'm like messing up, but basically a partner enjoys watching the other partner have sex with someone else or watch the show, and they just like to sit and witness it. I never heard of this term. I'm dodging it now. And I remember my ex was like, I think I'd asked my friend, I was like, what the fuck's that? And my ex looked at me like I was crazy. Like I must have been the most embarrassing person in the room right there. And he's like, you don't know what that is? And you're a sex therapist? I'm like, well, first of all, whoa, that's strong. And two, I was like, I don't know. And he explained what it was, and I just laughed, and I looked at him like, what? And like everyone's looking at him like he's crazy. Like, why would he call his wife out? There's a big group of people in front of all these people. And at first I was like embarrassed. And I also, at that point in my life, I think my daughter was a few months old. I was okay with not knowing. I think I worked at my practice for a few weeks, if not like a month. And I'm like, no, I don't even work with that yet. And a lot of people misunderstand. When you hear sex therapists, they think our jobs are like the sexiest, kinkiest jobs. And I remember I let down so many people when I explained what sex therapy is. And I was like, no. First of all, in that kink area and BDSM and a lot of the sub-doms like communities, it's at my experience is not necessarily limited, but those individuals and relationships have a lot of trust, and they don't typically come to a sex therapist for the actual sex acts. It's usually if there's a barrier and break in trust in those relationships that I've had personal experience, and from my understanding of a majority of the people I work with. I worked with one of the top sex therapists in the world. I was exposed and had a lot of supervision and a lot of information. Like, again, one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. And I'm over here mortified that my husband's calling me out and trying to embarrass me because he knows what it is. I'm like, I don't watch that type of porn. I rarely watch porn. And I'm like, why would I view that? And that was never part of our relationship where he wanted to bring something in and have ever explained this to me. And I just remember laughing. I was like telling my friend, my friend Sam, she's amazing. I was like, I work with erectile dysfunction, pain and sex, sexless marriages. Like, I think I don't even understand why that's a thing. And the reason why I share this story is, and not to bash on him, like he probably was genuinely surprised I didn't know what that is. I believe that. But the fact that I was one called out in front of everyone, or like I didn't know what I was talking about, like I'm supposed to do this and this, and I'm like, what? That wasn't about me. That whatever he said, and if this has happened with my parents and different individuals, like I never claimed to know what that was, and then said it wrong, and then I was like, and then like doubled down on it. I literally was like, it made me feel small, it made me feel stupid, and then I laughed because I'm like, either I was used to that or I didn't know I needed to learn what those things were. And sidebar, in telehealth, if you don't know something, there's a little Google bar next to your phone, or your computer, or I ask my clients, if I don't know something, I will ask for it to be explained. And that does not make me stupid. That doesn't make me to where I don't know what I'm talking about or I'm not trained well enough. Like there's a lot of acronyms, names, and things are called so many different things these days. And nothing's wrong with that. But that had nothing to do with me. And like I said earlier, another example I see all the time is like when you ask your parents for a different type of relationship, and because they can't think of like why can't I make time for my daughter or my son, or why do I treat this particular kid a little bit differently than my other kids? I imagine it doesn't feel great to hear. But that has nothing to do with the question or the ask or being too much. And if people make you feel small for asking questions, like again, that has nothing to do with you. And I know you're over there listening and being like, either I can't believe she just told me that story, or to like, what's the point of all of this? It's if people try to attack you, make you feel small, or challenge you, or say you're too much, or you're too loud, or you're too this, that, and then some. That is none of your business. I think it was Rachel Hollis that became really well known for saying this, and I'm giving her some credit, but I'm sure if she ever came across this, she'd say, I actually got it from this, or this is why I thought about it. People's opinion of you is none of your business. It is none of my business that my ex might think I'm stupid in that regard, on that thing. It is none of my business that my parents have issues where I address or ask for a need to be met, and then they think it's too much. Like, as an adult, that's easy for me to decipher and own and separate. It's much harder when you're younger. And if you're a parent, listen up. If your kids ask why, and I know you're tired, I am a single mom. I have my daughter easily 80 to 90% of the year. And I work full time. I do this on the side. I'm tired, and and I'm asked a lot of questions and everything. I don't always have the best response for my daughter, but I try to lean so hard into the whys. Like, why does this work? I pause instead of getting like, oh, I don't want to explain that. Why is that purple? That's a good one. She loves purple. And I'm like, oh, well, and these colors mixed together, or that must be their favorite color car, or she asked why something works. I do my best. And then what I love now that she understands technology better, if I don't know, I ask Siri. I have an Apple phone. I'm like, hey, Siri. She loves to ask my phone what certain animals eat what. It's so funny. And I ask. My daughter's not too much. She asks really fun questions. And I love that I can change that with myself now, because when I was younger, and even in my younger relationships, like why I would accept or feel like, oh, I should be quiet now for so long. And I'm sure the generations before us did have to be quiet. They're like, the generations of kids should be seen and not heard. Again, that was what raised my parents. Like, I am not mad about them at all. And millennials and Gen Z and all these things after are trying to figure out like what's the next step. And again, if you're like, why does everyone think I'm too much? You're just with the wrong people. Chances are you're more than enough in whatever way you are showing up. And maybe they are just either not as attuned, not as emotionally intelligent, not self-aware. Like, that's what the inward thing is. It's so easy to be in my seat over here, y'all, and be like, and easily point out, like, why would she say that? And what does that say about them and not me? it's so easy for me to say over here, I'm well trained. I never list off my education. Like, I never list off I have 3 degrees and all these things, or try to like explain my experience and why I know what I'm talking about. For so long, I had to prove I know what I was talking about because so many people try to tell me I didn't. If that's you, wrong people. I promise. I learned a lot in my 30s. I think 20s is just like an adult teenager. I learned a lot in my 30s. If people make me feel that way, they're not my people. And I'm sorry if that's your best friend. I've been there. I have. I've lost best friends. And I'm sorry if that's your mom or your dad. And I'm really sorry if that's your partner. If you're told to be quiet while you're at a party, or like, hey, you don't need to really talk about you, or like those controlling tendencies, I'm so sorry. I do encourage you to go to therapy. And that doesn't necessarily have to be with me. I listed off my website. If you're in North Carolina or Washington, I'm a licensed therapist there, waymarkcounseling.com, or you can coach with me at CourtneyCarroll.com. And if I'm not the right fit, I would be honored to help you find someone that is. If you're constantly being told or being pushed or challenged that you don't know what you're talking about, you really have to look at that. And there's something different, and I want to point out before I get off in a minute. It's different if you're hearing it in multiple avenues, whether that's work, relationships, and this, and that might be something you need to work on, but you would find that out in therapy. You would. I did learn I needed tact. That is something I'm grateful that I learned from bringing my attention from my ex. But I don't need to always be blunt, because it does hurt people's feelings. And I learned, hey, I don't have to hang out with those people that can't really be comfortable in who I am in my authentic way. And that's okay for them, and it's definitely okay with me. But I can't force my beliefs. I can't force my opinions onto anyone. It's like take it or leave it kind of thing. You know what I mean? So again, we're talking about being too much. You're not. You're not. And it's time to look inward. It's trying to challenge those. Why do I feel like that? Why do I feel like I'm too much? Or gosh, I can't even tell you how many times I hear it in relationship work, especially individual work, not even with their couple in the room, or dating. Oh my God, dating. Addressing and telling a partner what you do or don't want early on in dating. By the way, I'd find that sexy if someone told me those things. I think it's just not asking for much. You want, because if it's too much, they're not your person. And a good reason, like that what's popped up with a lot of my single women clients is like sexual monogamy. You don't have to have sex with anyone that's not willing to agree with that. You know, you just don't. If that's a requirement, it is for me. Like, I'm not going to just go have sex with everyone, you know? Or if I'm dating, I'm like, it's not like I'm saying we have to be girlfriend, boyfriend. Like, but if that's happening, like, that's a different conversation. And it's okay if they don't want. That's not too much for them. And it should be reciprocated or appreciated, and bring those things up at the beginning. We're going to talk a lot about dating. I have a couple special guests that are coming in February, and I have not had guests before, and it just gets me giddy. I'm so excited for February. February, as you well know, has Valentine's Day in it. Valentine's Day, I love love. And if you have paid attention, we are at 29 minutes. I'm going to wrap this up in a minute. And it's not that you're too much or you're asking too much. We're going to dedicate a lot of future sessions to working and navigating through dating and feeling that way, and boundaries, and how to get yourself back out there. And we are going to continue to challenge those negative self-talk, whereas you believe that you're too much. Again, first go inward with yourself. Is that true? And if you don't know, therapy. You have my links, right? And if you know it's not true, you've done the healing work, you've done that, ask yourself, who's talking to you? Who's talking to you? Who's saying you're too much? And if it's not an environment where it matches, you can do that with a therapist or coach or even a good friend, a mentor. Like, I'm always constantly gut checking and checking in and making sure I get something right. I still get supervision on my caseloads, like, as I should. And you go inward and then you're like, hey, I'm good. I feel good about that. I'm actually not too much. Who's asking me? The person that's insecure, that wants to like bully someone in the room and making them feel small. The person that doesn't want you to know how amazing you are to where you might leave them. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. And again, I want to end, you are not too much. You might just be with the wrong people, and that's something we can navigate. I will keep you posted on what's coming up, especially at the end of January and February. We got guests coming in. We're going to talk about it all. We're going to talk about love, sex, divorce, grief, all the fun things that is centered with love, self-love, and a new direction for you. All right. Well, until next time, guys, thanks so much. We'll talk soon.